Consistency is definitely, I would say, always number one. It's about showing up. You don't have to show up perfectly every time. It's really just about showing up, letting your audience know, hi, I'm here, don't go ghost for 3 months on social media. So definitely consistency.
Hello, and welcome to the next episode of the Beauty and the Brand podcast. I'm so excited to introduce you to Carla Serrano. She is our social media strategist for the last 3+ years. She's based in Houston, Texas. She works with a number of different beauty brands, as well as agencies and consultants, building compelling narratives with a video-first approach. She works with brands like Arcana and Kahina Giving Beauty and Us and Beautycon. And I'm so psyched because not only does, Carla do social media strategy for beauty brands like yourselves, but she has also taught master classes in our community on how to do it yourself. So how to do video content faceless, how to do, build a month of content that really helps to fill those pillars of like reach, conversion, and retention. And so welcome, Carla. I'm so excited to dive into your brain and all the things you know about social.
Thank you for that intro. I need that intro wherever I go.
That would be fun, right?
If I could take that intro with me everywhere, I would.
Well, you've been such a gem for us in our community. And so I want to dive right in. Tell me a little bit. First, give us the background of you've been in the social space for quite a bit of time now. What first sparked your interest in social media and storytelling?
Yeah, so I think I have kind of a pretty, unconventional path to, the digital marketing space and social media space in general. Or maybe with COVID and everything, it might be pretty common, but I was actually working in social work for a few years post-grad, and I have always had this passion of really helping people in whatever capacity I was able to. And then COVID happened, and like a lot of Americans, a lot of people around the world, I got laid off. I got let go from my job just because I was very much in person serving clients, face to face. So once that layoff happened, I was kind of in a position of like, I have so many things that I'm passionate about. I feel like I really have this connection with people and hearing their stories and where they came from, where they want to go. And I actually came across someone on social media who had a very similar path to mine. And I reached out to her and I was like, I know you went to school for the same thing as me. You have a similar background and you're in this digital marketing space that I have, never heard of. I've always been on social media like most of us, right? But in a very personal way of, sharing my friends and family and, following my own friends and family and a couple brands that I liked. And so this conversation I had with this person I just stumbled upon, I had this conversation. She was like, yes, you can work with brands that you love and you can help them grow. And it was kind of like a new world was opened up to me that I had never even thought of in a million years. And so I was, full 100%. I was like, I'm going to go all in with this and I'm going to make it work. And I'm going to learn everything that I need to learn about this industry, even though, I didn't have any formal education on it. I had never done anything, like this. And I was, committed to going all in. And at the beginning, I think that when a lot of people make those pretty big career transitions, there's always that doubt of, like, oh, what's my family going to say? Or what are my friends going to say? Or even my husband, what's he going to say? But luckily I had a great support system that was very trusting in me from the beginning. And, my husband actually, I told him about this conversation I had about a new industry that I really wanted to learn. And he was so supportive. He went out and bought me like my first laptop, my Mac laptop that I started my, career on because he believed in me so much. And that was really the inspiration I needed to go forward with it. And I started with very simple accounts. I was helping people create graphics for their podcast, or I was helping promote podcast. And I was really just, I was saying yes to everything because I wanted to learn as much as I could. And I was in a position where I was laid off, so I could say yes to things. And so I was saying yes to so much. And I loved hearing people's passion behind the business that they were building, because I was working with, solopreneurs at the time and entrepreneurs who had very small teams, one person on the team, maybe five max. And so there was a lot of passion behind the brands that I was working with, and a lot of founder stories that I really connected to, that I really enjoyed working with at the beginning, and helped catapult me and help me learn what I wanted to do moving forward. So, yeah, and it's been going on 6 years now, and I've learned so much, which is insane. And I said yes to so much at the beginning that I said yes to things that I didn't even know how to do, but I was up until 3 a.m. learning it, because that's really the only way I felt like I could take that risk on myself. And once you stay up till 3 a.m. and learn something, you learn it and you know it. So that's my biggest.
I love that, because I think it's like, say yes first, figure it out later. And I agree with that philosophy 100%. I've always been that person too that was like, yes, and I'll figure it out. Because it's not like there's, in this day and age, there's courses, there's Google, there's YouTube, there's like a million different resources you can tap into, and people and mentorship that you can tap into to get up to speed.
Yeah. And like you said, there's so much ways to learn different things. I think that we have a privilege that, a lot of people in previous generations didn't have, of free education and, expanding your network and learning from other people in the digital space. And so, yeah, that's definitely a great approach, is, you learn as much as you can as early on as you can, and you say yes to as many opportunities as you can. And then, you get really good at, you learn 10 skills, you get really good at three or two, and then that's where you really go all in on.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. Then you go all in on it. So you went all in. And, I think one of your skills is like, you have a video. I don't know if I would say it's a video first approach, but you definitely put video, you emphasize video and how important it is. You've certainly emphasized it for me. I know you do it for your clients. What inspired you to focus on video, and how's that helped to change like how you help your brands?
That's a great question, because we definitely live, in a video heavy digital marketing world right now. And video has come such a long way from when we first, started on YouTube and Instagram and, now TikTok. It's evolved in so many ways where, it really started. Long form video on YouTube was a great way for people to connect in ways that you might not have in other ways. You can message businesses, and you can look at pretty graphics, and you can look at gorgeous photography all day long, but there's a different type of connection that comes with video, and there's definitely ways for you to showcase your personality as a founder or an entrepreneur, or even just a solopreneur, or as a personal brand. That's what people are drawn to. We live in a world where we have so many different brands. We have so many different options for, skincare and hair care and makeup. And it really takes it to the next level of what differentiates this brand, and how can I connect to their values, the founder's personality, or what they stand for. So, it's an accessible way that anyone can do, which is also why I love video, because so accessible. It's not, you don't need to pay thousands of dollars for a videographer. You have a phone that you can set up at your home and, showcase your personality. So I also love how much it captures the attention and how accessible it is for anyone starting at any kind of level. You have access to create video. and it's what performs the best. So you might as well take advantage of that.
I agree. I think that there's this two-sided approach or thought around video content, right? You know this, like our founders, any uh, any founders, they get nervous about, getting on camera. They don't want to get on camera. They don't feel like they're ready. They don't feel like they look good, even though that's the thing that is like drawing people in, is like the more authentic, the better. And I remember myself, I'm on video all the time now, thanks to you. But I was so nervous the first time I went on video. I think did like 10 takes. Not, I think it was a ridiculous number of takes. I had like written out a script. And actually, funnily enough, it wasn't even for business. It was about the I was doing this ABC like alphabet of restaurants in New York City. We were going through the letters of like A is for Afghani food, like B is for uh like Burman food, or like we were trying like different foods, like C is for Chinese food, D is for like another type of food, Danish food, whatever. And we were trying to find the restaurants for each like letter of the alphabet. And then I was like, this is cool. And let me share this with my friends and family. And I just felt so embarrassed. And I was like, but I wanted to go on video and I wanted to push myself and get uncomfortable. And so I did it after like 100 takes. I finally put it out there. But that was like how I broke my video cherry. And then from there, I felt like I got more and more comfortable. But it's like once you once you break through that first video, it becomes, I think every time gets easier and easier. And then you don't even think about it. You don't even think twice.
Yeah. And I mean, like you said, you did 100 takes. We are our own worst critics. And we want it to be perfect, and the lighting has to be right, and, the hair and the product and everything. But like you said at the beginning, I think that the truly authentic video is really what captures people's attention. I think that people are definitely not sick and tired of the polished, kept up look, but it includes diversity in the type of content you're showing the audience. They want to see you when you're, stressed out. And if you feel like you want to talk it out, there's going to be people that relate to it. And that also puts you in, the space to be a category leader, is when you are the one starting the conversations that maybe people are too scared to have. You're initiating those conversations where everyone's going to be like, oh my goodness, I was thinking this too, but I was too scared to say anything, or maybe I didn't want to put it on my platform. That's what gives you that leverage.
Yeah, 100%. And I think a lot of people might be also afraid of rambling. But it's funny that, I'll hear founders say, oh, I was rambling and I don't think it made sense. And then that happens to be the one that video that takes off.
It's always the ones you least expect.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so tell me, you live in Houston, and I don't think I've actually ever asked you this question before, so I'm glad we have this opportunity to do it now. But, Houston is a city full of culture, creativity in its own way. How has living there, do you feel that living there has influenced your work and creativity, if at all?
Yeah, I would say 100%. It's, I've met so many creatives living here in Houston, and I think that Houston is such a hub for, people who really want to create their own path. And I've met so many people at networking events, at co-working spaces, at coffee shops that are just, they're in this place of wanting to create their own path, whether that be real estate or content creation or starting a product-based business. You meet so many people from so many different walks of life that are really trying to make it happen for them. And it's really inspirational speaking to people who are either at the beginning of their journey or at the, their years into their journey. And, you learn from a lot of different experiences. When I first moved to Houston, a few years ago, I, booked a co-working space a couple days a week because we work from home, and I was getting really frustrated and I just wanted to get out and meet people. And so that was a great way to meet people in a bunch of different industries that I networked with. And I even ended up working for some of them and, collaborated with some people that I met in person. And, I think that in our industry, we get so caught up with the online space and people we meet online. It's great. It's great to have networks of people across, anywhere online. But I think that there's a different type of connection in person that you build that you can really form these long lasting relationships with people. One of my very, very first clients, actually, her name is Kira. So I'm going to send her this podcast when it comes out because she's going to love that I mentioned it. She was my very first client when I was first starting out. I was doing a few graphics for her podcast, and she was just starting out too. So we were both kind of in this space where we were both starting our businesses, and she really needed the support that I brought to her. And we ended up working long term. She was living in Houston, and I was living in San Antonio. And then I ended up moving to Houston, and then we ended up meeting up all the time. And it got to the point where we ended up renting a co-working space together with just 2 desks. And yeah, and to this day, she's one of my really great friends. And so I always say that story when it comes to in-person connections. Like you never know, what that connection can turn into or what you guys can create together.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I love that so much. Sometimes I'll like respond back. Like I'll randomly, you get added, people send you ads all the time. Somehow you get targeted, and I got targeted by this girl in New York City. And then I just kept like doing a deeper dive, and I was like, oh my gosh, she lives in New York City and she has a kid. It's my kid's age and we have so much in common. And I just reached out, and now we're like great friends, and our kids hang out and, all the things. So you never know. Absolutely. Mhm. Such a fun story. So tell me more about, what do you think at this point on social media? Now it's a more mature space. How can brands stand out in a crowded space? And more importantly, do you feel like there's still room or space for brands to grow organically on social, or do you feel like ads are now a must?
That's a really good question because I get that a lot. There's so many brands in my space or my niche, what really is going to separate someone that stands out? And I do think there's space to grow organically without ads still. Ads are great for when you have a solid foundation. I always like to say ads are great once you've, proven the concept or proven the product and it can sell organically and do everything, you've had success with it organically. But I think at this point in where we are with social media, the biggest things that are really going to contribute to someone standing out in a crowded space is going to be authenticity and consistency. And, it's not perfection, it's really consistent, posting and content creation and authenticity at the same time, where there's definitely space for curated videos and curated photography and gorgeous assets like that. But people are really being drawn to, who do I connect to? What brands do I, share similar values as me? Do I know the ins and outs of the business? Do I know how it started? Is it, does it follow my values? Do they create a space where I can build community from that too? So I really think that authenticity and consistency are the 2 biggest things when it comes to standing out in a crowded space, because if we all do the same thing, it starts to kind of blend in where, you know, something that worked 10 years ago is not the same strategy that's going to work today. People really want to see the faces behind the brands. They really want to see what goes into building the product and the behind the scenes. And that doesn't always necessarily mean having to, be the one that's on camera all the time. It could be behind the scenes of your process with like voiceovers about why certain ingredients are here or why the process is a certain way. People are really digging into the why, why is this better than the competitors, or, what makes this different? Is it the ingredient? Is it the story? Is it, the way it's being marketed? And that's, I think, a really big component of authenticity and, being transparent with consumers on social media.
Mm. So I'm hearing obviously like transparency, authenticity, really helping, using that, allowing like the you to shine through basically, and not trying to just do copycat what somebody else is doing. But then like, let me challenge you on this, because what about then like, you see a lot of people who are just tapping into like a trending audio or trending meme, trending trend, on social media to get there, to I guess take advantage of that trend that's taking off. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I think there's definitely space for, that trending type of content where you want to hop on something that everyone else is already doing. And I think that's a great component of any social strategy, is you want to get on top of what's hot and what's, getting on people's feeds, of course. But I think there's space to do it in a way that is authentic to your followers. Is there, maybe there's a meme that's floating around that's really trending. And is there a way that you can relate the meme to maybe an inside joke that only your community understands, that's really going to resonate with them? If it's something where you're copying and pasting the meme from 100 other accounts that are resharing the same thing, it might not hit as hard with the community. And so I think that there's definitely ways to personalize those types of trending pieces to really resonate with your audience in a way that's like, wow, that's really niche. I don't think that my friends would understand it because they're not in this industry, but the people in the industry do understand it. So, yeah, definitely finding ways to personalize. Almost like, I always like to tell people that the TikTok comment section within itself is its own social media place, and I can't watch a video without reading the
Well,
comments,
I'll just go
right?
right to the comments. I'm like,
Exactly. Exactly. The comments are almost the best part about the video. And so, what I like to tell people is the comments are funny because it's an inside joke that a select few people understand. So, how can you use those trending pieces to create an inside joke for your community? Because then, yeah, because then people are going to find this inside joke that, I think it's funny because I live it day to day. If I see a joke about like social media managers or like, you know, algorithms, I think those are funny. But my friends who are teachers are not going to laugh because they don't understand it. So, yeah, so definitely creating trending pieces by using a strategy of make it an inside joke with your community that only they understand, and the right people will find it.
okay, I like this. So yeah, basically taking, if there is something that's trending, a meme or an audio, taking it and just putting it through the lens of your audience and your niche. Now, in terms of reach and getting really tangible on numbers and reach, like I think the ads question really more is most relevant to top of funnel, right? Like how, and I get this question all the time, and I think every brand founder is struggling with this, whether they're just starting out or they've been in business for 10, 15 years, is like, how do I get more eyeballs on my business? And I think obviously it used to be super easy with Instagram. It's not as much anymore. With TikTok, it was, certainly much easier over the last few years, maybe not as much anymore. And who knows what's going to happen with the TikTok ban, if it's going to happen or not. That's a whole nother deep dive, right? But like, in terms of reach, how do you get organic reach still without, if someone's like not ready to spend on ads?
That's a really good question. So it's definitely a lot more difficult now than it was maybe, 10 years ago to reach a sizable audience on Instagram or TikTok or whatever platform you're on. But in a way, it's also, it's almost easier because the top, the top funnel of content, it needs to be something that people who are brand new to your page or brand new to your product or brand new to your, page can really understand and is going to spark an interest. So what I always like to say is, what are some indirect competitors that you have, right? So if you have a product that is for post gym workouts, right? Maybe it's like an antibacterial spray for post gym. You can assume that your ideal audience maybe likes boutique gyms or they like fitness influencers. And so those people aren't your direct competitors, but they are interests that your audience has. You guys share similar interests. So I always like to say, study those pages, see what kind of people are commenting, what are they asking in the questions, do the market research of really scrolling on these pages and see what is most, what is being asked the most, or maybe what people are really discussing in the comment section, and use that to your advantage to create really top level content that those audience members can then find. And then, once they find your page, and then, of course, go into the customer journey, of course, but it's really about creating content that speaks to people who do have those similar interests but are new to your brand. It's going to seem very, I have clients sometimes who come to me and it's like, it seems very basic education or entry level education. It's like, yes, it's easy to you and it's basic to you because you've been in the industry for 20 years. You've been building this product for 10 plus years. So to you, this is very, very, basic. It's, everyone should know this, or, this is already known. But to the people who are first coming in and you're really trying to grow that reach, it might not be as known. And so you have to look at it from the perspective of, what is so simple to me that might not be simple to the people who need to come into this journey. And so consistency also plays a big role in that because, on Instagram specifically, it's really difficult to grow without posting, at least 2 videos a week, if not more, and then being active with people in the DMs and in the comments. And so it does take a substantial amount of, effort to get there. But the good thing now is that with video being, the biggest content source right now, is you can film a 1-minute video of your product or, your space, and you can trim that up into 5 different videos that you can post through a week with different copy on the actual video itself. So even though the consistency is a little bit, more, the effort can be lower if you're taking the right type of video and, splitting it in a way that can be repurposed so that you can be consistent. Because if we make it really difficult on ourselves to be consistent and we want 5 pieces of content to go out, but we're struggling to get it because we're perfectionists, having, B-roll on your camera roll that allows you to be consistent with it is really going to help you. So I know that's a really long-winded answer and I can kind of summarize that a little bit, but it's really going to be about doing your market research when it comes to growing organically. What does your audience, where are they, right? What other creators are they following? What other brands are they following? What are they asking in the comment section? Use that to your advantage. That's data that you can use to your advantage, and create content around that pulls them in. And then second is really consistency, right? So make it as simple as you can for you to be consistent with the content and putting it out there as often as you can. I think that.
And how do those 2 strategies ultimately result in more eyeballs on your account?
Right. So the content that is very top funnel is going to attract a wider audience. Of course, people, once they come into the customer journey, it's going to be a little bit more niche. So like if you have a sale going on, for example, or maybe you're launching a new product, by then you're very, you're much lower in the funnel where the content is going to be a lot more direct to a smaller group of people, right? So the content that is very, it's much more, what's the right word that I can use for it? It's much more adaptable to a wider range of audience, right? A lot more people are going to see something that's more general.
Because the algorithm pushes it out to more people that very sort of broader topic applies to. Is that how it works?
Yeah. So the algorithm is going to push it to a select amount of your followers. And Instagram now actually does a lot more pushing to non-followers, which it hasn't in the past. But, and people are split 50-50 on that because it's almost like a For You page where you're scrolling and you might not see the people you follow or your friends that you follow necessarily back to back. You will see them when you scroll, but you're being recommended a lot more right now that isn't your following or that isn't people that you follow. And so I think that this new algorithm switch is a great way for people to take advantage of that by creating that top level content that applies to a broader range of your audience that draws them in. And then, once you have however long that strategy is going on for you, depending on any launches you have coming up or anything like that, that type of content is going to get much more reach. It's going to get much more engagement. And then once you, start launching or posting sales and stuff, people have to understand that that's going to get typically lower engagement, but that's, the metric we're tracking there is different. We're not really going for the vanity metrics as much as we are going for website clicks and, sales and things like that. And so when you do have that top funnel content that is very broad, and the best part about this top level content is that this is the easiest to create. This is the easiest to create because you have so much knowledge that to you is so easy, but to people who are just finding you might not, it might not be as easy as it is for you. And so I always say that this is actually the easiest type of content to create because it's so simple, it's so quick, it's very, you have a 5-second video on your phone and you place something worth, something valuable on the screen. And that right there is consistency if you're doing that a few times a week. So I always say, yeah, go. No, I was going to say, I always say it's the easiest to create, but I think it's where people get the most stuck.
Yes. So to make this super granular and I hope I don't put you on the spot here, but you mentioned this antibacterial spray for gym goers, right? So can you share with me a couple of examples of that top level, top of funnel reach content that you imagine would be great for that?
Let's say, for example, it is that antibacterial spray for after the gym or on the go, whatever. A great piece of, top level content for this could be something as simple as, my 4 non-negotiables post gym, right? Or it's the topic is not about the product. The topic is about something that your audience does that is very broad. A lot of people go to the gym, right? A lot of people go to the gym. And your product fits into that topic because if you're having a post about my 4 non-negotiables post gym and it's sitting in the sauna or stretching and foam rolling, and then one of the steps is making sure that my skin is cleansed so that I don't break out. That's a way to kind of sneak it in because so many people go to the gym and this is very, top funnel where it's a topic that a lot of people relate to, but you're still drawing it into your core product.
Okay. Or maybe something like a joke, when your alarm goes off for the 5th time and or something about how it takes 5 alarms for you to get out and get to the gym or something like that everyone can relate to about trying to get up early to work out. And you know what I just thought of too is even if you're somebody who ultimately doesn't get to the gym, but aspires to get to the gym regularly, I'm thinking about my husband right now as I'm speaking. He does listen to my podcast episodes sometimes, so I hope he doesn't. But he literally puts his alarm on every day trying to go to the gym and then maybe once or twice actually gets there. And I don't think he's the only one. I'm sure there's a lot there. I'm sure there's some people who are really disciplined and they're able to get their butt up, every single day, 5 a.m., whatever that is. Amazing. He just struggles with getting up early. So I imagine the meme of that meme. And then I'm sure there's other people that also struggle with that, especially with creating this new habit of going to the gym.
Right. And so I think that's a great point. It's, it's also about what are habits that these people are trying to do. It can be, it could be your wind down routine at night, or you know, things like things like that, jokes, right? Of like my fifth day in a row, making my spouse mad because I'm setting an alarm at 5 a.m. that I don't wake up to because
Oh God, it drives me bananas.
yes. So things like that are very, top funnel focused, where it is relatable to a wide audience, but it still ties in your core product or your core values.
Yeah, the not to go off topic, but the funniest thing is that it wakes me up, but it doesn't wake him up.
Yeah, I can relate. I can relate.
All right. So moving forward, tell me a little bit more about, brands that are, struggling to see growth. What are sort of those top three things that they need to be doing with their social media strategies? I think you already touched on one, which is consistency. I don't know if you would say number two would be authenticity, but is there like one more that you feel is like, you got to be doing this to see results?
Consistency is definitely, I would say, always number one. It's, about showing up. You don't have to show up perfectly every time. It's really just about showing up, letting your audience know, I'm here. Hi, I'm here. Don't go ghost for 3 months on social media. So definitely consistency. I would say another one is really, maybe it goes hand in hand with the authenticity, but it's really creating value in one way or another, because, we follow so many brands already. And maybe even if you don't follow them, I'm sure people are getting them on their feed or getting ads. And it's, it feels very sales pushy. It feels very much like buy this product and then this product, and then you need this product. So I really like to tell people, what is the value that your brand can also give, whether it's, education, or sometimes the value can be the community that you've built. You have people who, can have conversations in the comments, or maybe they found each other because of the product and because of the business. So I think that value can be measured in a ton of different ways. It could be education, community. Maybe it's even just a really aesthetic feed. Some people find value in scrolling through gorgeous feeds, gorgeous, aesthetics. I think that aesthetics, sometimes, is hit or miss when it comes to value, but some people do value that. If you have, luxury services, people are going to, have value in those type of aesthetics. And so I think it really comes down to, what value can you drive? How can you drive the value? Maybe you're giving tips. Maybe you're giving, Instagram lives with really actionable advice. Maybe you are creating that community, that people can, find other people that they relate to there. So consistency and value, and then of course authenticity, for sure.
Cool. So those are the three: consistency, value, and authenticity. And then, you help Beautycon gain 70,000 followers and 200,000 views just in one weekend. Like, those are pretty big numbers. Can you walk us through how you approached that project and what was sort of the step-by-step there in order to get those results?
Right. So, I'm sure some listeners will be familiar with Beautycon, and, maybe some won't. But for those of you who are not familiar with Beautycon, it is a massive beauty festival that is housed in LA every year. And they actually stopped hosting it around the pandemic in 2019, 2020. And so when I began working with the Beautycon team, they had been on a 4-year hiatus. So it was really about bringing that experience back and bringing the brand back that hadn't been active for so long. And, it's a new generation of the beauty industry. It's going to be a whole new amount of people who don't know that this festival exists, or they don't know what it is, or they've never heard of it. So it's definitely it's a new crowd, right? And so, our big plan behind it was building that in-person experience. When it was really coming back, BeautyCon, about almost 2 years ago for the first time, post, the 4-year hiatus, it was a time where things were really picking back up to be in person. And so it was really about building that experience. How can I see myself there without actually being there, right? what can I do on social media to create an experience? I think that that's a really big point that a lot of brands have started doing recently. It's creating experiences, whether it's a luxury, shopping experience in store, or a fun shopping experience. You get added to maybe like what is it, the Instagram broadcast channels where people are sharing different, ideas or topics, depending on the brand, of course. So I think the biggest success behind, or the biggest thing of success behind Beautycon that weekend was really cultivating an experience. And it's difficult to do online, right? It's difficult to do when you're seeing it on your phone. It's like, how can I experience myself being there?
And how did you do that? Like, what kind of content did you create? Like, what was the content that you saw resonated the most to, that really brought that experience to life?
I would say that the biggest pieces of the experience component of the content was, it was things like maybe outfit ideas for what you can plan to wear, or makeup suggestions that you can, wear to BeautyCon, and really creating that creates an experience of its own. It's like, oh, it's somewhere I can get dressed up, and this is inspo, or this is somewhere where I can go all out with the crazy makeup I've wanted to try forever, and here's your inspo to do so. And it's almost like creating that type of content of like, this is the outfit inspo and the makeup inspo, that gets people excited. That's like, oh, I want to go buy an outfit for this now. And I want to go practice my makeup because there's going to be so many makeup artists there. And I want to, show my best looks. And so that right there creates an experience that you're going shopping for, you're practicing makeup for, maybe you're even practicing your hair for it. And you're building up that excitement. So things like that you can really start cultivating the experience early on. And then also just showing, behind everything, of course, there's going to be free products, and there's going to be experts, speaking at panels and stuff. But what can you actually walk away from? There's going to be people who have made it in the industry that maybe you want to succeed in, and you're going to walk away with really valuable tips that you can go apply because there was expert panelists at BeautyCon. And so it was really about creating the before experience of like, let's get hype, let's build our wardrobe, let's plan our makeup, let's invite all our friends. There was even some content that we did that was create your girls' weekend around it, like book an Airbnb together, see your friends that you haven't seen in a long time, maybe bring your mom or bring your sister and create this experience out of it that you can all come together over something that is a shared interest or a shared passion and enjoy it together. And so those are some ways that we really created that experience early on. Before we actually went in, once we were able to start sharing sneak peeks, that's when people start getting, a new level of hype. It's like, oh my goodness, this brand is going to be there and this brand is going to be there, and of course that's the sexy stuff. That's the good, juicy stuff, but you don't get that early on. You don't get that until right before. So before that, it's really about create a weekend around it, buy a new outfit for it, invite your friends who haven't seen. So yeah, those are some of the ways that we really created that experience beforehand to drive up interest and to really, succeed at it after a 4-year hiatus.
And when did you see, like, I don't know if you remember, but when, like, the spike of followers, did you find that it happened like pre-event more, during the event, or after the event?
So we definitely saw a steady incline before the event. Of course, it's like it creates buzz, it creates talk. Oh my gosh, BeautyCon's back. Did you hear they're back? Like we had people that we also wanted to kind of tie in a little bit of like that nostalgia where it's, when it was really big, it was a big time period for beauty creators on YouTube. And so we wanted to hit that nostalgia of like, do you remember when you were maybe 17 and you would watch these videos at home? And that within itself created, a steady incline of followers. But I would definitely say that the biggest component and the biggest driver of followers and engagement was at the actual festival, where we were able to be on site and really show behind the scenes of everything. And, by that point, it's, people who didn't come weren't able to come. But what it does is it really builds that FOMO of, oh, I have to go next year, or I have to go. And so, even though it was a spike of a spike of interest and a spike of engagement, maybe when it was already too late to buy your ticket, it does create the foundation for the next time around where people see, oh my gosh, they're having so much fun. They have like free ear piercings and free makeup and free this and, all these cool experiences, creating FOMO for the next round, which, is intentional, of course, but this is also what I like to tell people. It's really about the long game, right? So it's really about long term. How can we, yeah, yes, we're going to have an increase of engagement this weekend. It won't do anything necessarily to boost ticket sales once it's closed or once they're sold out, but we're thinking long term here, right? What is this going to look like in a year? We need to start building that FOMO now, because now it's happening and now it's something that people can look forward to, either being at the next one, hopefully, or, following along on stories and on social media, because we created such a curated social media plan where it felt like you could be there behind the scenes and experience what people are experiencing, who are actually there.
Yeah, absolutely. It creates that, like you said, the FOMO of like, I want to make sure I want to be there at the next event. And how did you keep that momentum going? Like after the event was over, what did you need to do to like keep that momentum going?
It's once the event is over, it kind of feels like, oh my gosh, like all that, all that, and now it's over. But once again, we have to think long term. And so even though it feels like something might be over, it's all about the long term game. So it's still sharing moments from Beautycon, right? And it's maybe sharing moments and asking people who were actually there, what do you want to see next time? What were your favorite parts? And so we want to make sure that we're still kind of incorporating that aspect of showing behind the scenes and showing, what the event was like, of course, but using this kind of downtime as almost like taking in the community thoughts, what could have been done better? What brands did you like? What creators are you following? Because then it still creates this conversation. And then, we take those interests and we plan it for the next year. And then it's truly like we're listening to the consumer of what they want, what they liked, maybe what they didn't like. And so I think that the down period, it's important to definitely collect those sentiments of, what did people like and what they didn't. And it lets people feel like they're a part of the bigger picture too, which they are.
Got it. Okay. And taking in the feedback to then make it better for next year. Do you have another maybe brand campaign that resulted in out of the ordinary, growth, and that you can share with us, and like the results and how those came about?
Yeah, definitely. I think that Kira, she's actually I'm gonna send her this podcast episode because she's gonna be so happy I brought it up. But that first client that I was talking about, that I ended up like sharing a co-working office with and everything when I moved to Houston. So she was like I said, she was my very first client ever. And when we started, she had 200 followers on Instagram, like very starting. It was like friends and family and whatnot. And like me, she also had a vision and she wanted to go all in on real estate. And she was very educated in real estate and she wanted to help others also build their, real estate portfolios and, learn how to get into real estate as beginners. And so, it was something that I definitely believed in. And I was like, yes, I'm 100% here for it. So when we started, we really focused on consistency, even when it felt really difficult. So we would have, Instagram lives where there would be 0 people there, but we would keep going and we would post consistently, sticking to the plan, week after week, even if we got 5 likes on a video, we would not. So it was very much like we didn't let that, stray away from the bigger goal. It's, she had a long-term goal. I had a long-term social media goal for her. And so from like 200 followers, we were so active and sharing so much when it felt like no one was listening. And I think that's the biggest defeat that people get stuck on, where it feels like no one is listening. But I promise you, when it feels like no one is listening, it is the most difficult time to show up, because it's so discouraging almost of getting, maybe little followers and, very little likes. But, we kept showing up. We kept posting. We would hop on trends. We were very, very consistent. And then, within a year, her account started, she had 2 videos that went viral with a couple million views. And that was what catapulted her into where she is now, a year and a half later. And this was like when we first started, but a year and a half later from when we started, she was at, 20K followers. And then in 2 years, she was at 40K followers. And so
what was the video? Now I'm curious.
the video was, if I remember correctly, the video was she went to a networking event, and the video was her top takeaways from that networking event. And so it was something that was very easy. She filmed a quick video of her sitting at a table where she was like talking to people. And then we put some text over it that said, I just went to XYZ, networking event. These are my top 5 takeaways in the caption. And that video, it blew up. And, at first we were so confused. We were like, where did all this come from? But it just goes to show, it's like, you're getting maybe 10 likes on a video week after week and week after week, but you really don't know what it is that's going to be the one that takes off. And, sometimes for a lot of people, there isn't one that takes off. It's accumulation of everything that you've done up to that point. And so, I was just going to say, like, once we saw that worked, we had an influx of new followers, of course. And, that video took her to 20K, and then, like I said, 40K. And then she was having, launches where she was making, and she's okay with me sharing this. I've posted about her before, because she's been great. So, I mean, she was having, 100, 200K launches as a beginner, which is almost unheard of. And she had barely launched. And it really came down to not straying away when we were getting, defeated by not seeing. I think people are so used to the instant gratification that it is hard to see the long-term goal of something. And it's hard to keep going when it feels like no one's listening. And it's hard to post something when it feels like no one's listening. But it really is, it is the consistency, and it's a buildup of everything. People who, it seemed almost like she had overnight success when her account blew up. And one day she was just at like 40K followers. But, we always say, like, overnight success took 2 years of consistency. And of sticking through it when it wasn't working and learning from what wasn't working. And so it's just a testament to what consistency can do for a brand, an account, even a personal brand.
Mm-hmm. There's, to your point, there's a lot, what people don't realize is, like, maybe like a post isn't getting shares or likes or whatever, but there's a lot of lurkers out there, and in a good way. Like, there are people who are lurking and watching, and they're not saying anything. They're not doing anything. And I certainly have experienced this myself, where 5 years that, like, I'll get on a call, or someone will email me and be like, oh yeah, I've been following you and I've watched all your videos for like the last 5 years, and now I want to work with you. And I'm like, I didn't even know, like, no idea. Like, and then I'm like looking up their email, like in my email provider. I'm like, oh my God, they really have been on my list for this long, and they haven't commented. They haven't liked it. You know what I mean? It's just, you never know. Some people are more inclined to like something or respond to something or give feedback on something. Most people are not. So that's part of, like, knowing like, what's the plan, make the plan, do the plan. Like, that is one of my biggest philosophies in business, is make the plan, do the plan, make the plan, do the plan. And people get in their heads about it. They're like, oh, I didn't see this many people or that many things or whatever. And, like, maybe in the beginning, just don't look at the metrics in the beginning. Or, I mean, I have split opinion on this because I think the metrics are so important and they guide you on what's working. But if it's going to turn you off from keeping going, then you gotta maybe not look for a little bit until you can get over the hump of like, I'm doing this consistently, I'm just sticking to it, and I'm ready to look at the metrics and they won't sway me.
Exactly. You have to stick to the plan, not the
Yeah.
feeling.
And I will say too, like two examples that I know is like one is from one of our C2C members, Elise. I remember she was doing all this pre-launch leading up to the launch of her brand, Twish, and she was on TikTok and she was putting out content very regularly, very consistently with her daughter, who was her co-founder. And the thing that went viral, like nothing went viral other like it was the same thing. It was like crickets, crickets, crickets. Like people were commenting, they were looking and whatnot, but it wasn't like viral, right? The thing that went viral was her taking her daughter to a sleepover. Like, what? And like telling her about like taking care of her skin or something. Like it was like this conversation between mother and daughter in the car. It was like very casual. There was like, it was not planned. It was not prep. It wasn't like, produced. And same thing for like Lissy from Lissy Skincare. She shared this story of how her most watched video to date is her like sitting on a bed, like in her pajamas, talking about like something unrelated to Lissy Skincare. And like it's the most it is still to date her most viral video. So it's just funny how these things.
You never know which one is going to take off. Yeah, you never know. And it might be the one that you're sitting on and being like, oh, I shouldn't post this because it's dumb or it doesn't, relate. You never know. You never know.
This is like making me want to go, and I feel like my strategy for filming is always like, let me book a room. Like, let me book like a nice room, like a pretty room that kind of forces me to create content. And of course, we do like the street content and like the B-roll and stuff. But this reminds me of just doing whatever's around you.
Exactly. Or like having a thought in the car that you're like, I need to get this thought out. Some people just prop up their camera and film it. Like you have to get it out.
Absolutely. So, what are some tools that people can use to make video content easier? Because I know some people are overwhelmed by like, this is going to be hard. I don't know how to edit. I don't know how to do this and that. So, what are some of those tools that you like to recommend?
I will always say that CapCut and a tripod are going to be your best friends. I think that those two things are really the easiest things to get started with creating consistent video content. A tripod is so easy because you can film like I could have a tripod right here and film myself on this podcast, use that as, content and play some text over it. To film yourself working or to film yourself going about your day. A tripod is, your best friend. And then CapCut is just such an easy editing tool to use, and you don't even need the paid version. I use the free version, and it gets me by perfectly fine. It's so simple to use and to be able to edit a video. And actually, CapCut has a lot of AI tools now that make it even easier. So if you have like a long form video, let's say like this podcast, for example, you can upload it into CapCut and it'll splice it for you into a few, 30-second clips with some of the juicy parts of the video. There's so many good AI tools. Even if you film, horizontally, it has an AI tool that will fix it and film it in vertical for, social media. So those are just like a couple of the tools that it has, but I will always rave about them.
Opus Clip. What are your thoughts on Opus Clip?
Yeah, Opus Clip does the same thing where it takes a long form video and trims it down. I will say though, it's a little bit more specific. Like you can give the AI prompts of like, maybe the 20-minute mark, we talked about this. Can you pull me 3 videos from that? So I do like Opus Clip for a little bit more kind of like more like more sturdy videos. Like if you really want to get down to the nitty gritty, I think Opus Clip is like kind of a beast. And I use the paid version just because it is a little bit better. So if it's free, I would say CapCut. If you're willing to, spend a little bit more to get the good version of Opus, I would definitely use that, especially if you have a ton of long form content. You have like YouTube videos and podcast. Opus is probably the best option. If you're just doing B-roll and like 1 minute clips of you talking or something, I would say CapCut is probably the way to go.
Okay. And then I'm just throwing questions at you. But like, there's so many different platforms that are video centric, from like TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. Is there like, how do you help a client decide, or how, what do you recommend for founders? Like, how do they decide which one to focus on? Because as a solopreneur, as a small team, it's very hard to kind of do like an omni-channel approach. I think it's a very misleading. I see people just using the catchphrase omni-channel marketing, and it's like only really applicable to a company and a brand that has a team that can actually implement the omni-channel approach. I mean, maybe AI makes it a little bit easier now for sure, but you still need support. Like if you are doing all the other things that you need to be doing, it's still going to be a challenge to try and do all the channels well. So what are your thoughts on that?
I always say, stick to one platform until you can consistently prove that you are, active on the platform, you're consistent on the platform, you're getting engagement on the platform, whether that be, Instagram or TikTok. TikTok is a little up in the air right now from where we are, but whether it is TikTok or Instagram as your foundational platform, I always say nail one platform first, because if you can't nail one platform yet, you can't be on three, you can't be on two. I always say nail one first. More often than not, it is probably Instagram. And then people, can move on to YouTube if they're ready to make longer form content, or TikTok. But nailing one platform first is really going to build that foundation. It's almost like, it's your second website. It's where people can land on and see, okay, this is, I can instantly tell from your page who this is for, whether that's me or not. So I always say start with one platform. Instagram is that platform a lot of the times. If you are a little bit more, open to being really on screen all the time, then I would say TikTok can be your primary platform. For some people, TikTok is easier because they're like, oh, I can just whip out my phone and film 4 videos in one day. But for some people, that seems very intimidating. And so that's when, like, no, if that's you, then start with Instagram first, nail the platform. And then once you're, on a roll consistently with the platform and you have the engagement, you have the audience, and that's when you can expand to other platforms, whether it's, TikTok or, YouTube, or, even Pinterest is big. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then tell me more about, like, are there any social media trends that you're excited about right now? And, is there anything that you feel like brands should like get into?
Yeah. Well, right now when we're having this conversation, we are like 3 days away from a potential TikTok ban. So what I've already started seeing recently in the last couple of weeks is people migrating that TikTok type content onto Instagram. And so I'm sure that I'm sure you guys, know how different the two platforms can be. And I've already started seeing a lot of like TikTok heavy styles and trends showing up on Instagram. So that's just like for the foreseeable future. We don't really know what's going to happen yet. Um, yeah, but that's definitely one. Is I do see people being a lot more less curated on Instagram, for lack of a better words. More kind of like instant, raw, authentic, let me plop a phone down, write a caption on my phone, and then post it, kind of how that TikTok style is. Um, so I do see that potentially coming as one of the trends that's coming up, but we will really have to wait and see for that one. For sure, we're kind of like in the middle of it. But yeah, definitely that raw style, that raw storytelling, unfiltered type content. I will see making a big impact on Instagram.
And is there anything that you see like for the longer future in the next 5 years, and anything like your brands should do to prepare?
Yeah, I think that for the long term, people are going to be a lot more conscious about what they're purchasing. And I think that they are going to be doing a lot more, deep diving into what goes into creating the product, who the founder is. I think that for a long time, we were buying products without knowing the ins and outs of it, or maybe who created it, or we didn't really know the story of it. Um, but I do see that being a trend a lot more, is people really buying based off of, the behind the scenes of how it was created, the intention, the process, the ingredients, the founder. People are a lot more interested, and they are also making a lot more conscious effort to do their due diligence of researching that stuff before purchasing. So I think that's a big piece to have on your social feed, whether it's on highlights, maybe you have your story somewhere in there, or you have it pinned to your page, or you're consistently sharing it. People are definitely doing their due diligence and their research. And I think that that's going to be a big driving factor in how they purchase off of social media.
Yeah. So really doing their due diligence on social media as they would if they were going into a store and looking at the back of a box, looking at the ingredients, looking at the packaging, getting that information. Yeah, through social. Got it. Okay. Very cool. So how can people find you?
You can find me at Carla V Sir on Instagram. I'm kind of in the middle of doing a whole kind of brand on the page, so I actually just archived everything because I want to come back in a new way. So if you find me in that process,
Can you give us a sneak peek? What's the new way?
I definitely am. I'm still kind of building it out, but I archived everything because I really just want to show up in a new way, where I want to show how people can do this on their own if you're not in a position to be able to hire a social media manager or hire a marketing team. So I really want to focus on like the value of step one. Maybe you have no idea where to start, and it's really about, where do I begin? And then if you are past that point, it's like, okay, how do I sit down and actually create this content? So, I have a couple videos of me like behind the scenes filming my computer where I'm actually doing the work with you. So I really want to transition into really showing you because it is possible to do it on your own. And, you don't need a social media manager. You will need, time and consistency, of course, but that's the beautiful thing about social media, is that it's accessible and free to everyone to market.
Was that inspired by our masterclass?
Yeah, a little bit. I think that people really, sometimes they're not ready for a marketing person on their team just yet. And it kind of stalls people from starting or, being consistent. And so I really want to encourage people that you can do this on your own, and it doesn't need to be intimidating. And it's probably actually a lot easier than you think to be consistent.
I know that our founders loved when you did that. You filmed yourself like editing that CapCut video, and then when you shared it in the masterclass, they were like, "This is the coolest." I think that was the favorite part of the session. Was like, "Oh my god, it's so cool to see you actually doing it and being like, oh wow, I could do that too." Like, and you talked through it. You were like, "This is what I'm doing now. This is what I'm doing next. This is what I'm doing next. Here's why I'm doing it." And then it just became so much easier once we saw you doing it.
Exactly. So I think there's a different type of value when it's actually me walking you through it, or someone walking you through it versus just teaching it. without actually showing you firsthand. So I really want to take that hands-on approach. Because I do want to encourage people and empower people to be able to do it on their own and not feel like there's a million things going on with the algorithm and a million trends that they need to hop on. And it causes a paralysis that, prevents them from even doing anything. So that's what's coming up. If you want to find me, it's blank right now, but maybe by the time this comes out, it'll start. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you, Carla. Carla, thank you for sharing your insider knowledge and everything you've learned not just over the last 6 years, but also what's current and what's coming up, and like how people could get into this even on their own and how they can get started. I think that's the intention, is like, even if you can't hire help yet, there's no reason to not get started. And there's so many tools now, like even just in the last year, that make repurposing content so much easier and faster. Like there's tools coming out all the time that are making things faster and faster and easier. So
Yeah, thank you, Ivy, for having me. I had so much fun.
yeah, this was great. And we'll see you guys on the next episode of the Beauty and the Brand podcast. If you love this episode, we would love a review. If you're willing to share your thoughts, it would be much appreciated. And we'll see you on the next one.